How awesome is this, guys? We're out on a lake. I guess maybe more of a pond. Salt Lake City, Utah. It's just a gorgeous day. I hope you get the chance to come here someday. I've had a blast hanging out with the Magnum crew. And we're looking at the Premium X. This is their like top of the line folding electric bike. And what differentiates it from the classic 48 over there is that one has mechanical disc brakes. This has hydraulic, which is going to be a little bit easier to actuate for someone who just wants that really smooth feel. Sometimes the right brake in particular, which controls the rear rotor, that's a longer line. And with mechanical, there's just more friction, so it takes more effort, especially over time as they get gunked up and stuff. So there's adjustable reach. You can bring those in a little bit like that. They do not have motor inhibitors on actually, what am I talking about? They do have motor inhibitors. They do not have the bell, which is something that I kind of like. You know, it's a fun, quirky little thing. You can see that over here. There we go. Instead, they've got like just a cheaper external flick bell. So that's one of the little trade-offs. Both of these bikes come in step-through, as well as that like high step design. You know, maybe that's a little bit more masculine or something, but I love being able to approach and just step over super easily. A lot of people that go towards folding electric bikes, it's not always just about the convenience of being able to store this in your closet or at work or on the bus. By the way, there are some public transportation systems out there where you have to have it in a bag. A lot easier to fit a folded electric bike into a bag to keep it clean, keep the bus clean or whatever, than it is a full-size bike. So it's a great option, but a lot of people that get this, they just want the lower standover height. They want the smaller feel. It's something that you're like, yeah, I can control this. You know, I'm not overwhelmed by these big wheels and everything. So those are some of the differences. There are a few more though. Check out these magnesium rims right here. Those are extra tough. They're not going to get out of true, which can happen with spokes. However, these are pretty nice. These have 12 gauge spokes, 32 hole, smaller diameter means that the spokes tend to be sturdier. And both of these get a nice mechanical advantage because of the smaller wheel diameter. So that's pretty nice too. And Alec, this is Alec, he's from Magnum. They have the same motors, right?
Yeah, correct. 500 watt motors. 500
watt motor peaks out at 700 watt, 80 newton meters of torque. And these are Bafang, whereas a lot of your other bikes, they have DOS kit motors.
Correct.
But the rest of the setup here is DOS kit. So they both have that 48 volt, 13 amp hour battery, with that nice DOS kit display, C6, little trigger throttle. I like how small that is because it's not pushing the brake lever in too far. And I also appreciate that they both have this very intuitive, like half grip twist shifter. This one has 8 speeds. Okay, 11 to 32 tooth cassette. That's another big difference. Over there we get 14 to 28. So you just have a smaller spread, which isn't going to be able to climb quite as easily because you don't have that really big 32 tooth sprocket. It's also going to be a little bit quicker, like you're going to be beating eggs is what I call it, when you're trying to go up and hit that 25 mile per hour top speed. These are class 3 electric bikes. And for a folding bike, especially with smaller wheels, I mean, that's fast. Like, you know, you're on it and you're like, wow. But it feels pretty comfortable, to be honest with you, partially because this bike it's not light. Like, you look at it and you're like, oh, you know, it's small, it's a folding bike, but it actually weighs close to 60 pounds, and that's because of the high capacity battery pack, 9.2 pounds right there, roughly 10 pounds on the motor, just so dense, there's a lot of magnets and stuff. These nice big aluminum alloy fenders, suspension fork. This one has preload adjust, whereas that one does not. So if you're a heavier person, those nice rims, that preload adjust, you preload the spring so it's not bottoming out on you. This is a slightly upgraded fork. It doesn't have lockout. It's not the fanciest fork. It's still a spring fork. It's not air, but it gets the job done really well. And then finally, look at these Schwalbe Supermoto X tires. These are awesome. 20 by 2.4 inches. So they're quite big. 2.4 versus 2.125 over here. And they both have that reflective sidewall stripe. They both have some puncture protection. You'll notice that these rims are blue, so they tie into the colors a little bit nicer than the pure black, but I actually think this still looks good. There's black all the way through this frame. And then back up here with the drivetrain, we've got an aluminum alloy guide. So it's going to keep the chain from bouncing off in either direction. It's also going to protect your pant leg or your skirt. It's not going to touch that chain quite as easily if you're pedaling through here. They've set these up with 52 tooth chain rings, which is bigger than their full-size electric bikes. Those ones have 48 tooth chainring. So a bigger chainring here is kind of balancing out the smaller wheel in the back. So it's a comfortable cadence, slightly shorter 165 millimeter crank arms instead of 170. And then they've got these plastic folding pedals from Wellgo. I have seen metal versions of these, which I do kind of prefer, but it adds even more to the weight and to the price at $2,049. So $2,049 for this model versus $1,599 for that one. There's a bit of a price difference, and a lot of this is kind of similar, but when you really get down into it, when you look at the tires, when you look at the compression adjust, when you think about the hydraulic disc brakes, even this saddle, this is a nice comfort upgrade right here, and they both have this flip up. This is a suspension seat post, only about 40 millimeters of travel. If you pull that out, there is a compression adjust on the bottom. So they're checking all the boxes. It's just sort of, a little bit of an upgrade over here. And they also have some battery upgrade options. So check this out. There's like a little USB port right here you can tap into. And that would be nice if you're adding additional lights, or maybe you have a little speaker back here or something like that. The lights that the bike comes with are independently operated. So you have to physically turn them on and off like this. And they use AA batteries, which are kind of the disposable ones. I would encourage you to get a rechargeable ones, because I left them on accidentally quite frequently. Like, you get excited, you make it to the park, there's a picnic or something like that with your family and friends, and you just park your bike and you forget about it, and you come back later that night and you're like, oh, I left the lights on for like 3 hours. Oops. And the LEDs last quite a while, but it's not as convenient as if they were directly running off the battery. Now, the reason that they don't use integrated lights on quite a few of the Magnum bikes is because that's more cables going across the frame, and with a folding bike especially, things can get banged around a little bit more easily. And you can see down here they have a support arm to protect the drivetrain when you fold it. They've also got this steel derailleur guard which protects the motor power cable, and the Shimano Acera derailleur that's 3 steps up from the base level in the Shimano group set, component groups. Over here we just have Shimano Tourney. That's very entry level. So again, smaller cassette spread, more basic derailleur. This is going to last a little bit longer. Pretty adjustable too. They both have this, but it's a barrel adjuster, so you can twist like this over time to the left, and it'll stretch this housing, which is going to match the natural stretch in your shifter cable that goes up front. So those are all worth keeping in mind. And I was talking about this seat post before. This is 400 millimeters in length. That's pretty good. A lot of seat posts are just 300 and 350, so you can really get this high. Same thing with the stem. This goes 120 millimeters up, or you can leave it at the base height, which is 240 millimeters right here. And that's going to give you a full-size feel. Even though you can fold this small and it gets to be pretty compact and it looks visually small, remember, there is some weight here. The weight's pretty well balanced. And there is some potential for like larger riders who want something that's compact. Alec, will you come over here and do some folding?
Absolutely.
So, he's going to go through this. The first thing we usually do is fold the pedals up like that.
Up on this, turn sideways. Next thing I do is I make sure the handlebars are folded down there.
Yeah, and be careful with the display, by the way. You're doing fine, but that's one of the points of vulnerability. Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a little lever here we want to release the tension on, and lift up on it so that we can release that pin. Yeah,
so there's like a locking mechanism there. And then there's a spring, so that kind of helps it to stay. All of these, there's kind of double systems. There was a press button on that stem folding, just so it won't come unfolded accidentally while you're riding. They're pretty safe in that sense. Now that it's completely folded, I mean, I've measured this thing, the dimensions and stuff back at the website. It's pretty compact. You could even take out the seat post if you wanted, and then put that separate to make it even more like compact, less tall, I guess. Coming down here to that support arm in the front, see how it's resting on that and not on the pedals, not on the chain ring. They've really thought this thing out. One thing they do not have is like a rubber band or Velcro. There's no way to really keep it folded like this. So I recommend, a lot of times I'll take a towel and I'll put it over, and that way the metal portions of the frame aren't rubbing, and it's gonna scrape off this nice black paint, and they're just gonna make more noise and stuff. Keep an eye on that display. Imagine you've got it all folded and you tip it on its side. That display is gonna be vulnerable, or the drivetrain on this side. So, be careful with it, but these are pretty modular. You guys, you work with, there's a huge network of shops, like in the United States, Canada, Israel, and New Zealand. You can go to those shops to get replacement parts.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Something happens to your display, I don't know if it's $50 or something like that, but
It retails at about 110.
Oh, really? Because this is the nicer display, the
This
C6.
is the nicer display.
Okay, so trigger throttles, things like that. So coming back to just being careful with this stuff. And a lot of it being modular, you can remove that throttle if you don't want that. You can lower the top speed on this. And maybe we can go ahead and unfold it. There's a lot of adjustability with the display panel on this bike, which is something that is pretty nice when you have more control over the bike. So I'm going to go into that once we're all set up again. The first step, of course, is going to be to make sure that the battery is turned on and charged up. And I should show you this. 1.5 pounds on this battery charger. It's got the nice metal tip that's not going to break as easily. It's just a little bit beefier, which is great for traveling. 2 amps, that's very standard. It's not the fastest in the world, but it's also not going to stress the cells. These guys use lithium-ion cells from Panasonic, LG, or Samsung. So pretty nice stuff. It's in the on position. Now, a lot of times I will actually get on the bike before I turn it on, just so we don't have any accidents, because that throttle is going to become hot as soon as it gets turned on. I press the power button, comes to life. It's a grayscale, kind of a monochrome display. You can tip it a little bit to reduce glare. We've got a power readout here. It's kind of a chart that goes up and down based on how much power the motor is using. Pedal assist 1 is the default. And again, the throttle, it's hot, full power at all levels of assist. If we press the minus button, we go down to 0, or one more time, all the way up to 6. So it loops, which saves you a lot of clicks. It's kind of handy. Battery management system's 49.4 volts, 5 ticks on that infographic. So that's saying, you know, we're at full charge, but they're 20% steps. And if you get down to that last bar, it's really impossible to tell, like, okay, am I 20% or am I at 1%? And, you know, you can totally pedal this thing. That motor freewheels. It's not going to create any drag, but it is still a heavier bike. And it's pretty comfortable, but it's not quite as comfortable as full-size electric bikes that have, you know, bigger wheels, lower attack angle. This one's nice, though, with a higher volume. They can be pretty comfortable if you lower the tire pressure a little bit. Okay, and then over here we have odometer, timer, trip 1 and trip 2, so you can track your ride. If we hold the minus key for a second, we get walk mode. I'm not going to show you because I don't want to go off the dock here. And you might also notice there's like the crank arm kind of collides with that kickstand. And so you want to stow that before you walk the bike backwards like this, if that makes sense, so you don't get pedal locked. So here we go. I'm just going to face it this direction. If I hold the plus button, it would turn on backlighting for the LCD display, which is kind of nice, but again, it doesn't activate the lights, so keep that in mind. If you hold plus and minus, that's going to get you into the settings menu. That's something a shop can help you out with, or maybe one of the reps. There's like a password, and once you get past that, you can change the top speed. You could lower it from, you know, it says 28, but it's really about 25. That's realistically what you're going to get. Go down to 20, take it down to 15, or even 6 miles per hour. They kind of have these steps, and that gives you more control. Especially on a smaller bike like this, you'll get better range. You might feel more comfortable knowing, like, okay, I'm not going to go above 15, you know, something like that. That's the bell I was talking about. So it's kind of like, you know, it's a little crowded over here. I really like the one that's integrated, but it's worth the trade-off for hydraulic brakes, in my opinion. And then, yeah, you could completely remove that throttle, and then it would be potentially a class 1 if you lowered the top speed. There's just a lot of options on this. It's potentially like class 1, class 2, or class 3, which can comply with your rules, which means you could ride in more places. I think that's about it. Will you toss this in my bag, man? I'm just gonna go for a ride real quick and then come back, and Alec and I will take a ride together, show you what this thing looks like. I think I'm gonna juice it and show you, it can actually handle this hill. It's pretty amazing because of the smaller wheel diameter. So here we go. Go. I'm actually helping it a little bit here. I'm surprised. The other one was climbing this hill, but maybe this one has a little bit lower battery voltage or something. Not too bad. We did make it. I came at an angle, so I want to be fair and transparent with you guys. But I have been pretty impressed, you know, with the 48 volt system. It's delivering a little bit more power, and these motors are upgraded. The older ones that I reviewed, they were 350 watt motors instead of 500, and they had 36 volt systems, so it's a big upgrade in that sense. Now I'm gonna do the braking thing down this hill. This is one-handed front braking. Really smooth, really smooth. I could descend that hill very comfortably. I felt in control. Alec is over here. Can I trade you off?
Absolutely.
Sweet. So we'll put him on the Premium X. I gotta boot mine up real quick here, buddy. We could just take that big main thing back towards the office. Here we go. Putting those fenders to work. There you go. Maybe you can go over these, like off one of these curbs over here. I want to see that suspension in action. There we go. Little obstacle course. Oh boy. Now we'll do the speed test. Take it all the way up to pedal assist level 6. A little bit of no hands action, feeling pretty stable. I was able to do it with this one. Remember, this is the 48. That's the one with the bigger tires, so it's gonna be even more smooth. But they have basically the same motor to get that high speed going. Brake test. Oh yeah, a little bit of dive on that suspension, which is to be expected. Thanks for coming out with me, buddy.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. For the full written review and a comparison tool, back at the website, electricbikereview.com. I've measured the width, length, height, unfolded and folded, so you can get an idea of whether this will fit in your life. Have fun out there, you guys. Ride safe. Love ya. We'll see you next time. Hey guys, we're back in the shop. This is their headquarters, Salt Lake City, Utah, and I just wanted to show you the gloss white with blue accents, how that looks. It's a nice step through. I think this one's the classic 48 right here, looking really nice. One thing that their bikes don't have, the folding ones, is bottle cage bosses. So I wanted to point that out. It's a little bit of a compromise. This is my workstation over here, and here is the Premium X. Same thing, no bottle cage bosses, but you get a little trunk bag back here and put maybe a little bottle holster, or sometimes there's cup holders up here, but it can get a little bit tight because there's kind of a short reach. I want to compliment Magnum because you can see there's a little cutout on the seat tube, and then the collar, quick release collar, it goes in like this, so it doesn't actually make contact with or get in the way of that Silverfish battery. That's kind of nice because some of the other companies don't do that, and it's sort of hard to get it aligned.